Greetings, Simon Rainier, Links Abrazare out of Kamloops, British Columbia. Fiore de Liberi was not a sword master. He was a wrestling master. Or, to put it slightly less inflammatorily, he wasn't as much of a sword master specifically as he was a general martial artist. His unarmed and grappling stuff informs the dagger, informs the sword work, informs everything. Everything links back to previous sections. It's all one whole unified system, and that just makes it really cool. With that in mind, the first guards we're going to look at are the wrestling guards. The guards of the Abrazare, which is Italian for art of the embrace. Jumping right into it, our first guard is the Iron Gate, Porta de Ferro. Basically any position with your hands down. Generally speaking, I stand in a combative stance while doing this, and you can either have it sort of profile to your opponent, shoulder forward, or you can be more square, depending on how you want to do it, and depending on exactly how you're planning on entering into combat. Also worth mentioning that the guard positions as depicted are sort of the ideal form, the Platonic ideal, if you will. And Porta de Ferro can be taken to mean anything with just your hands down in a casual, relaxed stance. One of my old instructors always used to say, if you can't fight from hands down, you can't fight. From here, we can rise up, extending out a hand to posta lunga, our long position. When we do this, our body is supported. We have almost a straight line leading from our shoulder down back past our hip into our heel, which drives into the ground to give us forward power. Our shoulder should be roughly midway point above the midway between the hip and the knee. If we lean too far over, we can be pulled off. If we're standing too straight, that breaks this structure and makes us weak. Strength is key in any of these stances. Our elbow should be tucked in, providing the blade of our hand a clear line to our opponent. One of the ways to use this position can be for a strike. It can also be to push your opponent to gain distance, or just placing it up there as a check. It is an incredibly powerful position to use thusly if someone's advancing in on you and you just plant in posta lunga. It almost feels like walking into a brick wall if it's done properly. There is no give here. From here, we create this 90-degree angle. This is dente al cinghiara, or boar's tooth. Excellent position for if we're in the clinch, for again, creating distance. Can be used to cover as we enter, and can also be for driving an elbow into the person, into your opponent. Very powerful, very solid position. Also really, really excellent as a counter to anyone trying to wrap their arms around you and go in for a really tight clinch, bringing your elbow up here. Once again, body position same as posta lunga, we just now have a bent arm, and we can hide behind it. Also can be used as sort of almost a parry. As someone comes to strike at us, we block it in here, or we can use it to actually ride in along their arm to enter. Final position, posta frontale, front position. Excellent position to stand in, excellent position to enter in. When we come from Porta de Ferro, we can drive forward into posta frontale to cover our heads from potential strikes or grapples. Not as quite as useful when we're actually clinched in with someone, but at the same time can be used to push, can be used to cover. Wonderful position. So, these positions once again: Porta de Ferro, posta lunga, dente al cinghiara, and posta frontale. What I'm going to show you now is a few clips of grappling when we use these positions in some of our wrestling portions for our sparring time. Note, a lot of times when we're doing this, we have either sort of Muay Thai, MMA style grappling gloves on, and or daggers in our belt. The daggers in our belt changes the game so much, and you really start to understand why these positions exist and why the grappling is like it is when you have a dagger. It's worth mentioning there's almost no ground fighting in historical European martial arts, and basically none whatsoever in Fiore. In my experience, as soon as someone hits the ground, that's when the best time to draw your daggers. That's when the daggers come out, and that's where things get extremely, extremely deadly. So there's a strong, strong emphasis on staying on your feet, throwing the other person to the ground, and basically if they do end up on the ground, that's when you pull out your dagger and you stab them, or pull out their dagger and you stab them. We do occasionally do some work when we are on the ground. Hi, Griffin. But we treat that as sort of the worst case scenario. So, here's some more grappling clips. Enjoy, and we'll...
Elbows, Nick, elbows.
Good.
Like Taekwondo. Yeah, these